And here we go. So today, everyone, I'm joined by Markian Pergat. He's an entrepreneur from the Ottawa, Ontario area. And today we're going to be talking about a business that he acquired, operated, and then sold. And we're going to be talking about the state of the market when you get out there and actually start talking to people or advertising a business for sale, and how it may not be quite what you might expect. We'll be right back in just a second.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses while controlling risk. So if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win.
All right. Welcome, Markian. How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. So I want to kick things off by giving people a little bit of a background about who you are and your experiences. And we've spoken to each other a couple of times over the course of the years, because I think you had a consulting call with me a few years ago. And you want to give people just a little bit of your background, how you got into running your own business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the humble beginnings was being a door-to-door salesman. I was 18 years old, and that just kind of tumbled myself down to the road of entrepreneurship. I guess College Pro Painters was the student franchise thing. So I was in school. I figured I might as well not just read the book on how to do a business, but actually go out and do it. So that one felt very well. I got the Rookie of the Year for the little division I was in. So that was kind of good.
It was like a summer student gig business, right? Like it only operated in the summer, and these franchises set up every spring to operate for the summer and then kind of wound up in the fall. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. So you hire students and that's just a summer job, but they get the franchisees, which is sort of the franchise territory manager, if you will. They book those much in advance because they have to train you on paint systems and the business systems and kind of learn that. So you're kind of doing that earlier, I guess, if that makes sense. So by the time the season shows up, you already have people hired and you already have jobs booked and you're already ready to rock and roll.
And so were you a franchisee?
Yeah, I skipped the painting phase. I just went right to I got to learn how to run a business.
Okay. So you got taught by College Pro to set up your business, get the advertising going, get out there, make sales, book the jobs. Like, you really got taught how to run a business. I'm always fascinated by these kinds of businesses, specifically these seasonal businesses, because they've got all the systems and processes in place to literally start from scratch every single year.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm very, very thankful for the experience there. I only stayed there for sort of 2 years. I mean, it was only a 2-year program for running a business of students. So I kind of went off on my own after, but they make you sign this sort of non-compete clause. So you can't run a painting business for X amount of years later, but that was fine because I sort of went niche. Like, I loved everything they taught me about business, but when it came to exterior wood projects like decks, fences, pergolas, that kind of thing, if you put that thick solid stain, it sort of acts more like a paint. It kind of creates a film and it would peel. So I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. So typical entrepreneur, I went and kind of solved the problem. So I just said, how do I do this? So I just kind of learned and taught myself the old fashioned way of, you got to sand it fully back down and then put a new penetrating oil stain. I know they all say they penetrate, but most of them don't. So, and then our brand was, and then the branding was perfect. It was called Never Peel Again. So neverpeelagain.com is still the URL that we have for our little funnel. And that's been the business since then. So basically
so this is a business you started once you were off on your own after college. Okay. And you're still operating the deck and fence sealing, sanding, and staining business.
That's correct. Yeah. It wasn't right after College Pro. I mean, I did a couple other things, and, I was still very young, and music was my first passion, but that's a whole separate story. So we won't get into that. So I try to be a part-time rock star while sealing and staining decks in the summer. Cause that that was fun while it lasted. Then eventually I realized, okay, I gotta get committed here. And then I went serious into the deck staining and kind of like, went full business mode where it wasn't just me, but I, again, hired people, and it was a full operation.
And then how long did you do that business before you started to look for other opportunities?
Quite a while. So it always was like my side gig, because I always had sort of that, I shouldn't say side gig, but I mean, because you're so seasonal, it sort of felt like one. I always had my winters off. So I always had a kind of love-hate relationship with the seasonality, because you get your winters off, you can maybe go, travel or relax a little bit, but then, you work your tail off in the summer and make things happen. So I was always kind of open to other ideas. I mean, there are other things I started and maybe failed at, or just decided I didn't want to do or whatever. So, but this is the one that kind of kept, it just was kind of, nothing's easy, but it was already kind of set up, and every year you get kind of more returning customers. So it just kind of kept compounding and growing on itself. So that was handy. But so I did try to do other things, and I'm not opposed to other opportunities. And then eventually, several years later, I kind of got into the idea of, well, why don't I just, buy a business that's much larger, and then I could, if it's, big enough and it supports the lifestyle I want to have, I'd be happy to kind of follow that path, right, and just jump right into that phase, if that makes sense.
Okay, and so then tell us how you came face to face with the hydro seeding company.
Yeah, so one of the ways we market here is the local trade shows here. So there's several times a year. So I have booths all the time, and of course, when you see the same faces all the time, you kind of like start to know people and all the rest of it, and you're always kind of walking around meeting new people. So I guess I met this gentleman at the trade show, and I was kind of asking about his business. It looked kind of cool. What I liked about it was it looked fairly trainable, where, again, if I have a short season, I have to have a service that is not overly specialized, if that makes sense, where I could, hire some students and train them fairly quick, and they can already be doing a reliable job very quickly. And this looked like it sort of fit that bill. So we kind of started chatting, and next thing you know, it sort of looked like it was like something that he was willing to let go of. And I was kind of interested in adding on to what we already have, because we can't do anything on the rainy days. So I know hydro seeding, you can't do it when it's like pouring rain, but if it's still kind of wet, or even just kind of like dripping a little bit, you can still kind of do it, as long as it's not, completely flooded. So I thought this would be a great way to keep the guys and girls busy if I sort of added this on as a service.
So let's explore for a minute how the guy you bought it from, how he was operating the business. Can you describe what his setup was, what his team was like, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was mostly him and a friend, and I think they did it for about 4 or 5 years or so. And I think maybe I don't know all the details, but I think maybe it was him and his wife for a little bit too, because I think the friend was maybe not able to work, or was injured, or had some sort of health issue or something. I don't know the details, of course, but it was basically like, the typical, the guy in a truck sort of model, if that makes sense. So so they were, taking leads and working away. Now he has another business as well, so he did this a little bit on the side. But point is, it wasn't like there was an office manager and several crews, and it wasn't like a full-blown business per se. This is very much the typical, owner operator, chief cook and bottle washer setup, if that makes sense.
It was really sort of a owning a job / side hustle kind of setup.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's the reason why I want to explore that is just to give an idea of what you started with, because basically when you bought his business, you were really just buying some equipment, and maybe he showed you how to do some stuff with it, and then you had to then transform it into something that would fit into what you were looking for, which was your rainy day sort of income generator when you couldn't be doing the deck and fence painting.
That's exactly right. So the way I saw it was, okay, if I had already kind of grown to the point where we did have several crews in the office staff and the rest of it, if we kind of, acquired these assets here, we can kind of just put that into our model and plug and play, and just automatically, kind of add that on, where has now jumped from that owner operator, guy and, 1 or 2 guys in a truck, to now it's part of this business, just another kind of service. So I was hoping to kind of upgrade it right away to kind of like, proper business status, as opposed to just, assets that are being worked by an individual or two.
Yeah. And so the way the previous owner operated it, I mean, it's a very profitable kind of way to do it, because you have very little in the way of overhead, but of course you're doing all the work, like, right? When you were operating the hydro seeding business, you were doing it entirely with paid labor. You had people in your office that take phone calls and things that were arranging the call. So you were doing it all with staff. And so how did the performance differ for you?
Yes, that's exactly right. So other than the first, call it week or so that I was out there because I wanted to, learn the ropes. So whenever I train people, I know what I'm sort of doing. So I was on the job for about a week, maybe a week and a half or so, and then you're right, just kind of like hand it off to our crews. So you're right, you make a little bit less margin because you're not the actual body there doing it. But again, hopefully, you get, just like anything, you grow, you get the volume, then it makes sense. And just like our other jobs. I mean, I started with the decks refinishing that, I was on my hands and knees doing the work myself, and I got, of course, 100% of everything, but I had to do everything. So now, as it's changed from hiring people to, and then actually having back-end staff or whatever. So I just kind of saying, hey, like one more service, but the same setup, this could hopefully work. And, I was taking a little bit of a chance because, when you're buying something, you don't know 100% of it. So maybe the margins were a little bit off, but the way I saw it was if it's maybe a bit more revenue, obviously there's going to be some profit, even if not as profitable as my deck refinishing, but also was for retention, because if it rains for, sometimes a week or two straight and there's so little work to do, you end up losing your students to say, geez, like my summer's 4 months long. If I have 2 or 3 weeks off, that's like, it's almost a quarter of their summer that you lose. And then they end up quitting and doing something else. So I almost did it for that reason too. Just even if it wasn't for us to try to make a killing on the profit, it was just, can I keep these people, especially the good ones, around, right?
So strategically, it sounds like a super good fit. I can totally see why you decided to move forward with this. So you thought it would be a way to take advantage of your employees, keep them busy when it was raining, they couldn't be doing the deck and the fence work. And you thought, okay, I could promote it, maybe cross promote it, kind of when my guy goes door to door or whatever, or you do advertising in a neighborhood, you could promote them both. So I see how these fit together, same customer group to a large extent. How did it execute? Like, what was the experience when you actually were underway that first season?
Yeah. So, I guess a lot happened the first season. So we were lucky because typically May 1st is when everything starts. That's when the students are kind of off from school. And by then, historically, the weather's, warm enough to kind of start doing some of these exterior business, service businesses. So we were very lucky because May was extremely, extremely rainy. Like we didn't start our wood refinishing and restoration stuff until the 3rd week of May, because it was just nonstop rain. And even if you had one sunny day, you had like 8 days of rain and then another 8 more days of rain after that. It just wasn't worth doing that one little job that you're going to have to sort of, redo because it's going to get, it's going to get flooded or washed away. So, but the type of rain we get here, it's like, it's not like Vancouver where it like rains for like 48 hours straight. We get sort of, a big rain cloud and it's wet, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's raining 24 hours a day. So if you can kind of, time it, the hydro seeding actually could work. So the hydro seeding was like 100% of our revenue for the first 3 weeks, and it was great. So I was like very, very lucky in that regard. So that was good. And then because we did the trade show with the hydro seeding business as well as our staining business, we had a bunch of leads. So from May 1st all the way until, call it, mid to end of June, things were just going really well with it. And then sort of as you get closer to July and August, which is, I guess, historically vacation season, when a lot of people have their, maybe their kids are off of school and they have the 2 months off, or they're just taking their own summer vacation, whether they have kids or not, or whatever. It just things sometimes slow down for some of these service businesses around July and August for that reason. And then so that happened. And then so now it picks up again because you can continue that business a lot longer until it kind of starts to get too cold or snowy. But of course, we lose all our staff. So I had sort of one crew to keep going, which was good. But already by then in my head, I'd realized that I wasn't going to continue, with the business after that first year because although it came in very handy in May, there were less sort of, synergies than I was sort of hoping with the deck restoration. Because with the hydro seeding, there were the residential customers, which we focused on because the margin's a little better. But then there's commercial job and municipal jobs. But it's, you get less margin, then you gotta maybe get the bigger, giant tanker truck, which costs, a significant amount of money and all that stuff. And it's sort of like, well, that's getting very different from my, customer list of many homeowners, which is, 99% homeowners and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it solved one problem maybe, or at least helped with it a little bit, but not entirely. And then, I just want to, have upsells and cross sells to my existing customer list, let's say. So now arguably I could have maybe, done more research before I bought it and done that. Looking back, I probably could have made a decision before I went ahead and bought it, but overall I don't regret it. Like, I still am glad with the way it turned out and what I learned from that.
Well, we've got the website here set up, and so now you have sold this business, and we're going to be talking about the whole sale transaction and everything. But I wanted to give people a peek. Here, I've stretched it out here. I want to give people a peek. So it's ottawahydroseeding.ca, which is, I imagine, just fantastic for SEO if someone wants to go, who is in Ottawa, wants to look for hydro seeding service, right? So you got the website, talks about the benefits of the process, talks about sort of the different kinds of services, new lawns, overseeding, people with bald spots, top grading. And then it talks about how you save money. Got a couple of, sort of things in here that give credibility, 20 years, family owned and operated, all that kind of thing. And then call us for a quote. So, and you said the machine that you had was kind of the smaller one. It wasn't really suitable for going alongside the highway and stuff. I would imagine that homeowners that hire you for deck and fence work completely understand that there's a weather component to scheduling the jobs. Were the hydro seeding customers equally as flexible, or were they expecting more of a, for you to deliver on a certain schedule? Were they as, because you talk about how you thought you could fit these two things together. Was that more of a problem where people weren't as flexible with the hydro seeding?
Yeah, exactly. So that was a learning experience where if you're on everyone else's schedule with the hydro seeding, so if you have a landscaping company doing all the prep work, so just to be, just to give it more context, all we did was the spraying. I wasn't looking to start a whole brand new landscaping component. Now, if I was going all in and wanted to do that, then, the opportunity certainly is there for that. But again, I already had my main business. I didn't need to start anything from scratch, hence trying to acquire something, something new. So now you're on the schedule of, whoever's doing the prep work. And they say, okay, we're ready, come on now. And, like, they might give you a day's notice. It's like, well, for anyone who's running a service business out there, it's not always something you can just kind of do on a fly like that. And if companies do that, bless them. but I mean, I'm used to our deck staining customers that, we're experts, and they will wait as long as it takes to get the job done properly and job done well. And if that means Mr. and Mrs. Customer, let's wait until it's dried a little bit more before we do this. They say, absolutely, we want this done correctly, as opposed to, hey, come here, come now. If you're not here, we're calling someone else. So it's quite a bit more cutthroat, which I didn't love. So I guess I think it's throughout the whole industry. I don't think it's just hydro seeding. I think the whole landscaping side is like that. So quite a bit less loyalty, let's say, on that side of things, and maybe less so if we were larger and offered many services, because it's handy to be a one-stop shop in that regard. But yeah, it was a little bit, it was a learning experience for sure.
Okay. So by the end of the first season, you had figured out that maybe it wasn't the fit that you thought it was. And then you decided to sell it. So take us through the thought process and how you decided to go about putting it up for sale.
Yeah, exactly. So because I had purchased it as an asset sale, because that's how the previous owner had run it, my hope was that now that I've ran it as a season, I did a whole season that it was like run as a, kind of true business. And I even had some people that might be open to working next year. Like some of them had, the licensing to kind of like carry so much weight in the truck and trailer. So like they might want to go. So I was trying to dress it up as it was, this is kind of like a business. It is seasonal. So of course, if someone buys it in the middle of winter, they're not going to be expecting cash flow on day one. But that's obvious, I suppose. But I mean, I was trying to say, look, this can be run as a business because that's how I run it. I ran it, but I did make it very clear also that I'm not sharing the financials because this was mixed in with my other company. And then, so that's not something that I'm, just putting on display. So I did still sell it as if it was an asset sale, but just showing the potential and saying, look, you could run this any way you like. If you want to be the, one or two guys in a truck, absolutely, you could do that. The opportunity is there. If you want to go plug and play, like, again, the website's very professional. Ottawa Hydro Seating is like you said, you don't have to be an SEO genius to understand you're going to get leads from day one, just by having that website. I was kind of saying, look, this can kind of go either way. And in my mind, I thought this is either going to go to exactly one of those two people, like the one guy, or a landscaping company that's large, that's already subbing out their hydro seating work and saying, let's take this in-house, let's just buy this unit, and then again use it as lead gen, keep the name Ottawa Hydro Seating for its own thing, and then they can offer whatever else, whether it's irrigation, the prep work, or if they do landscaping, like the interlock stones, or or pools, or whatever they're into, like they can offer all that. It's just one more thing they could put on their services list.
So primarily when you were offering this, you were basically saying, here's the machine. Is it mounted on a trailer? Is that how it works?
Correct. Yeah. Truck, trailer. And you were correct earlier. It's not the massive tanker truck, but it's not the tiny one that goes in the back of a truck. Because some people have that, but like you're not going to be busy with that because you're spend half your day just refilling this tank all the time. So it was a mid-size. It's like some people that do hydro seating said it was a pretty big machine, but again, it wasn't the tanker. So I thought it was kind of cool because it was like the best of both worlds. You're not the little guy who's making no money with it, just refilling refilling with water all day, but you're like you said, maybe not doing the multi like massive acre ones until you have one of the bigger ones or something.
So basically you were offering this equipment and people could take the name and the website as well, and you were saying, look, here's all the different ways that you could run this. So very clearly the person who needs to take this thing over is either going to be like a DIY, back to the original kind of owner, like someone who's going to take it and kind of run it on their own, or someone who has some business experience. But it was not coming with staff in any way. Like, it was not a going concern, as we call it. It was, you were selling just some equipment and a website.
This is correct. Yeah. And it's worth noting that yes, I did have it set up that way. So if someone wanted to set up and just plug and play, buy the whole thing, but I do realize that with the name Ottawa Hydro Seating, that is very valuable to someone in Ottawa. But at the same time, Toronto is just, a few hours away down the road, or anywhere else for that matter. So I was also aware of the fact that someone might see this, want to have the assets, but they don't care about the name or the goodwill, if you will. So I did separate the ad where it's here, package deal, buy it for X. And then if you want just the truck, just the sealer, just the hydro seeder, I should say, just the trailer, or just the goodwill. I had them all separated for exactly that reason, because I knew that, hey, like, in a perfect world for me, it goes as one big sale, but realistically, if someone in Ottawa doesn't buy this, it's certainly not going to go in one shot. It's likely going to be, parsed out.
Well, yeah, and if you didn't sell it within the time frame you wanted, you're exactly, like, you could have sold the hydro seeder to one person and the truck to another person, and like basically it's stuff. But the reason why I want to be very clear about this is because as we get into the next part of the story where we talk about the responses to your advertisement, I just want it to be clear to people listening, like, and watching this, what you were promoting. And so you put this on. How did you advertise it? Did you put it on a website that advertises businesses for sale?
Yeah. So at first I started with Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji. Now, Kijiji, I know, is not very popular anymore. Maybe it was 15 years ago or something. And for anyone listening to the States, that's like the equivalent of Craigslist here in Canada.
It's like Craigslist. Yeah.
But Facebook Marketplace was getting consistent leads. And then after about a month, I did put up for 6 months on businessesforsale.com as well. But to your point, yes, I made very clear right in the title of the ad saying that this is a business assets for sale, meaning that you can run it like as a sort of ready to go thing as long as you manage it and put the people in place. But at the same time, it's the assets. It's not like I wasn't promising anyone cash flow from day one. I wasn't promising, I made it very clear. And then that was the title of the ad. And then even in the ad, again, it's a reminder saying, hey, I'm not giving you financials. This is just the assets. If you know what they are, great. If you don't know what they are, maybe do some research first, or call me. But just like don't have an expectation that you're going to just buy this and then and then just kick your feet up and just expect money to roll in.
So the reason why Markian's on the show today, everybody, is because he reached out to me in an email after he had gone through this experience, and he said, David, I just sold these assets, which were part of my business, and I've kept statistics about the people that replied to my ad. And so, and this is, so all of this now for 25 minutes has been the build up to this. So tell us, how many people approximately responded to your ad?
Yeah.
Because I know you kept more detailed track of everyone beyond the first communication, but
I've just switched my screen here. So looks like I had 61 leads, and 6 of those are after it was already a pending offer, let's say. So 61 leads.
But the 61 people were just people that actually talked to you.
Oh yeah, right? Sorry, my apologies. There's even more that, just based on the what would you say? Just based on the messages, that wasn't worth kind of responding to, but people that I actually was able to speak to, whether it be, on the phone or message significantly more than just like a one-line thing. That, yeah, exactly. That made it onto the list. There's even more people that didn't even make it onto here.
Okay. So 61 people reached out, and why don't you tell us about some of the communications you got?
Yeah. So I was shocked at how many people were sort of trying to do the whole, buy a business for zero to pocket, or like have it pay for itself, or like expect a bank to be able to fund 100% of it, or just like name it, right?
With or without having met you and actually seen the stuff.
Yeah, this is over the phone or over a message or something. Yeah.
Right. So these people have not even come out to see it. They haven't spoken to you face to face. They're like on the phone or on text message, and like immediately they go to, well, maybe we could borrow the money, or I could do seller financing or something.
Correct. In terms of how many people actually made it to meeting me and seeing the equipment, I think only 3 potential buyers made it that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Any standouts amongst those conversations?
Yeah. So I know we laughed in the pre-call about this one, but based on how the conversation went, look, as a buyer, I get it. You need to make the best as you can, and if they're seeing what they can get out of it, fair enough. Play your hand however you want to play your hand. But there was a certain point where I was maybe getting frustrated on the call, and then someone even sort of called me out on it because maybe I was just sick and tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. I actually just flat out said, hey, you just sound like someone who just saw, one too many Cody Sanchez YouTube videos, and they laughed audibly laughed guiltily, just knowing that, hey, that's sort of exactly what happened, right? Yeah. And again, they were a carbon copy of the other people. I think, and the stats that I did keep, I think the tally was 44 people were in that category, 44 of the 61, which is, that's the vast majority, right? And again, look, just like anything, you only need the one buyer. I didn't expect the first person to show up to the buyer. That's not the point. It's sort of the idea that, that this is what is, I don't know if this is the norm nowadays, or this is,
what you're describing mirrors what business brokers are now telling me, is that they put something up for sale and they're getting flooded with inquiries from people who they may communicate with, but it becomes very clear very quickly that they're asking probing questions about whether or not they can buy a business using no money. And it's just, I find it hilarious because if you were going to give someone credit, you would want to do some sort of underwriting to determine whether or not that made sense for you. And people just don't seem to get it. They're just calling up strangers saying, hey, can you give me your stuff and trust me for the money? I'll pay you over time.
This is exactly right. And another point worth noting is, look, when I bought this from the other guy, I wrote a check. right? Like, now this is expensive equipment. Expensive is relative, I guess, depending on, the size of business and what you're buying. But I mean, like, this is not, money that most people just have sitting in their checking account. So, yes, we had, there was a deposit, and then there was, a big check. And then at the end, the one thing that we did agree to is I will pay the goodwill portion sort of at the end of the summer type thing, at the end of the thing, which I was good on, and I think everything was fine. I actually even paid him early or whatever after I kind of already decided, like, I'm gonna sell this thing.
So you paid the seller a deposit, and then when you actually took delivery of the goods, you gave him a big check, and then some amount of the purchase you guys called goodwill, and you paid him after a few months, basically after the end of the season. So that's like he did some degree of seller financing for you. It just wasn't a payment plan. It was one check at the end of the season. But he obviously, at what point did you come to the agreement on those particular terms? I'm guessing it's after you kicked the tires a few times.
Oh yeah, we met in person several times. Like, obviously, this was a long phone call originally. I mean, I met him at the trade show. This is like, so I just keep stacks of business cards that I just follow up with people and just phone, as one does. It's just like, deal flow, if you want to call it that. And and this guy, so we were chatting on the phone, and then when it sounded interesting to both of us, well, then of course we met, chatted some more, and then you chatted again, and then at a certain point, it kind of comes down to, well, let's get serious about this and get into numbers. And that's kind of where it sort of, kind of came up. So, yeah.
But you also held a certain credibility with him because he recognized you as a business owner because he had seen you for several years at this home show, right?
Correct. And I assure you, I did not march in there and say, can I have all your stuff for $0?
So, all right. So let's get into your statistics even more. So you said about 3/4 of those 60 immediately up front started asking for ways to, do seller financing, zero down kind of stuff. And then you said there were 3 people that actually met you face to face. What sort of other people were in the difference there, the other 12 or so?
Yeah. So what do we have here? So there were 2 offers, 1 buyer. So 9 that looked kind of interesting. I guess that maybe they didn't fit into the 44 earlier that we spoke about. But they were, they had maybe different interesting questions. So this is worth mentioning. We spoke about the value of the Ottawa Hydro Seeding name. And when I separated all these assets, more than one lead was saying, hey, I actually don't want your hard assets. I'm a lead generation guy. I just want to buy the URL and the website, and I'll just do lead gen and sell to, and just sell to the other guys. So I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, this is lucky. And then again, what if some guy, like I said, in a different city buys all the hard assets and I'm stuck with this goodwill? It's like, even if I don't get top dollar for it, I can still get something which is great, right? So that was counted as, like, again, interesting offers or maybe not a official offer, I shouldn't say, but interesting conversations. And there were about 6 people that were, I'll call it, serious inquiries. Again, only I think was it 3 that came to see the stuff in person, but like, it was looking pretty good. And one of them was, at the end going to come and see it, but he backed out when he realized there was a couple of people when the offer started coming through. And that's basically the majority of it. But so I don't know, that's how I organized it anyways. But
amongst your pool, how many of them were you able to identify maybe as people who already owned businesses?
Oh, good question. Those are all in the notes. I didn't have it separated by that, but there is actually a decent number of them. And to be clear, both businesses, as in larger businesses looking to do an add-on like we were describing earlier, and some of these were people that are, again, a guy in a truck that's sort of like looking to just maybe upgrade or improve their business, or maybe just add this on or something like that. So whether you want to call it a business or a self-employed person, there was a decent mix of that. But there was also a large, most of those 44 people were people that were didn't own a business and just trying to like get started, and which that's respectable. I have no issue, got to start somewhere. But I mean, just the way they kind of were, sort of going about it was less appealing to me as a seller. So
describe the person or the company that ultimately did buy the stuff.
So yeah, this is quite funny, or for me anyways, very small world. So the very first person who I picked up the phone and gave a not a cold call, but a warm call to, is the person who ultimately ended up buying this the stuff.
So you identified them and reached out to them.
Yeah, because when I was running this, when I was running it in the summer, I was just pulled up at a gas station. Of course, it's top of mind, and I saw a landscaping truck pull up, and they do irrigation. So of course I say, irrigation, hydro seeding go very, very well together. So I, as we're pumping gas, as you do, I just kind of say, hey, I just wanted to mention, hey, I own Ottawa Hydro Seeding. I noticed it says irrigation in your truck. Do you want to chat? So he gave me the number of his sort of, I guess the manager or whatever person it was, and that's someone who we talked for like 45 minutes, and actually used to do hydro seeding, that sort of thing. So he has some knowledge in it. And I was just very appreciative of that, because I was like right in the early time. Again, I only ran it for one season, so I guess it was all pretty quick. But that was like one of the first.
So he kind of gave you pointers on the business.
Yeah, and again, he gave me his time. This is like early spring. This is arguably your biggest time. Like every minute matters. He didn't have to give me 45 minutes of his time on the phone. And he's never met me. I just called out of the blue. And of course, you offer, hey, look, I don't do irrigation. I'd love to. Refer people to you, because so it's not like it was a one-way street or anything, but at the same time, he didn't have to do that, and I just kind of remembered that. And then when I kind of made the decision that, okay, I want to sell this, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 companies that I just called that I'd already kind of come across like that in the summer. And he was, him and his business partner were the first persons to come out and take a look at it too. Again, they obviously didn't make a decision right away, but ultimately, ultimately ended up working out that way. So I just thought it was funny that the first person I called is the person who actually ended up going ahead with it.
Well, I mean, obviously it makes sense for someone who's in a business like that to kind of add this in, right? It totally makes sense. I get it. And I would imagine that if they're doing irrigation and other work, they probably have a bunch of people. So maybe they could train a whole bunch of people on using the machine, so they have more flexibility in how they move people around and stuff like that. Maybe to get around those urgency issues that you had.
This is correct, and they do have a large established company. They have many crews, and they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I think they do irrigation. They do also sort of all that weed and feed stuff, like all the regular taking care of your lawn, like multi visits per summer. And then I know his partner does the.
They can identify their own leads.
Correct.
Amongst their customers, right?
That's just it. And that's why he saw the same thing. He saw Ottawa Hydro Seeding as perfect lead generation, as mentioned. And they already sub out all their work to, one of the other guys, which is it's in a place called Brockville, which is, I don't know, call it an hour away from us or whatever. But that guy actually, after 20 years or so, whatever it is, sold his unit to somewhere down the States. So he knew that, wow, the guy that we were giving all our business to, he's gone. And then lo and behold, I show up with this thing for sale. It definitely made sense for them to go buy. They already know how much they're already subbing out, which is, a decent sum as it is, plus all the lead gen of that name. And plus that all their customers from their weed and feed and the irrigation. I mean, it just makes sense.
Natural acquirer. Well, this is awesome. What is next then for you? I mean, are you getting ready for this spring for the decks and the fences?
Yeah. So perfect. We're doing all our pre-sales as we normally do, and just kind of getting all our regular customers on the list, which is great. And of course, new leads, which we're always happy to get new people on the list, because it's sort of it's a pretty cool business model in terms of where the first visit might be a larger ticket because we got to do a restoration. And then after that, you just kind of do, maintenance. So just kind of like a recoat or kind of wash and a recoat or something, which is great. But I do still like the idea of adding more services and doing the cross-selling. So we're right now in the process of getting some washing equipment. So, I know you can do a whole bunch of things with pressure washing, soft washing, that kind of thing. But I think it'll be even helpful with our wood business specifically, where if there's a project that's too large to sand, like if you have cedar shakes, for example, or if you have like a large siding, like that would be, quite something to sand. And then, but that was our main method of doing it, because 90% of our jobs are decks, and we do it with the floor units. But, this way we can just let sort of like the cleaners and the soaps and the chemicals do the work, and then you're just kind of doing with the wash. We can add on quite a bit more, wood restoration and maintenance jobs as it is. And then again, once you have that equipment, you could jump into a whole bunch of other stuff, like just, cleaning houses, in general, or buildings or siding, or, And then once you're there, you might as well do windows and gutters, whatever, right? So it's there's a whole bunch there. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So was it your experience with the hydro seeding that after you got out of that made you step back and say, what would actually be maybe the better fit with my business? Was that kind of the angle you took?
That's exactly right. So obviously hydro seeding was cool. It solved a couple of problems like we mentioned. But ultimately, our customer list, and especially because a lot of them are, most of them are set up to be repeat customers. It's sort of the idea of course, we want to get more customers every year, but how do we make those customers more valuable? What else can we offer them that is obviously much more synergistic? And hydro seeding is something you can, do the one time and then it's sort of one and done, right? And you can do the weed and feed stuff, but I had no intention of going down that road. But these other ones are, anything that's kind of like coatings or maintenance, based, or I guess, restoration stuff, then like anything that falls under that category seems to be like a good fit. So again, if you get into the washing stuff, if you're washing maybe patio stones, maybe we could, seal them also. So people who just wash it are just doing the one thing, but maybe we can, specialize also and do a sealing. So you're adding more value and sort of being more, call it niche or more specialized, just like we do with the wood, because a lot of guys that do washing, they do wash decks, but they don't know maybe, very much about the staining. And again, that's no disrespect to them. It's just, they just don't know. Just like I'm still new to the washing world or whatever, I'm learning, but I can see it as, again, lead gen. And even if it's a kind of low ticket item, it can lead to all these other places. Obviously lead back to our wood restoration and maintenance business, but it could open up the door to a lot of other things. Like I said, whether it's, in the interlock stones or whatever, or just cleaning buildings before they're going to get painted or whatever. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this is all still summer season. Have you thought about doing anything that would get you inside the house to make it a year-round business?
That's, I guess that's the next step. Definitely thinking about it. Not enough traction to sort of mention anything what we're doing, but hopefully, again, once we get into this world, we'll, make more contacts. And again, this season will be a little bit longer with the washing because, again, you don't have to worry about the drying time having to be a certain temperature overnight, like you do with the stain. This you can do much sooner and do much later. But what I'm hoping to happen is, as much as I love having the students and helping the students in that short 4 to 5 month period, I think having a team that's all year round, that I'm not training brand new every single year, will be the main ticket. So yes, you want a service that you can do in the winter, but I think what I'm really craving as a business owner and kind of like a leader who wants to see people grow, it's, yes, our customer list is compounding, but our employees sort of come and go, which is, because they're students, right? The maximum they can sort of stay with us is kind of, 3-ish years or so, because even if if we catch them in the first year and they have 4 years, after the 4th year, they go off being an engineer or a doctor or whatever, or, whatever they studied or whatever it is. So it'd be nice to have some people that are core, that are with us all the time. And then, that would be very, 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 very powerful, because even though, like I said, our customer list grows, it still feels like you have to kind of start all over again every season, when you're finding new people and then, train them and stuff. So I think there's always going to be room for the students in this extremely seasonal stuff, but having a team and a base that can work, all year round and stick with you, then that retention will be extremely worth it. Because once you got some rock stars in the team, you never want to let them go, and that's that'll really raise the quality even more. So, yeah.
Markian, this has been awesome, and I hope all the viewers and listeners have enjoyed this. Now you know why you're meeting so many business brokers when you talk with them about deals who are saying, I need to see proof of funds. I want to see that you have money. It's because they're dealing with this phenomenon all the time, of people just, and what's worse, I mean, these people actually identified themselves right up front, saying that they're looking for this kind of deal from the get-go. But what's worse is people that, sort of have all the buyer seller meetings, drag everything out, and then, make an offer, with no money, and it can really be disappointing to some sellers and brokers too.
Absolutely. So no, for sure, I feel their pain, I suppose. Yeah. So well, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
No problem. If you want to learn how to do deals with seller financing the correct way, of course, head over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. Check out the program that I have there. And Markian, I want to thank you once again. If anyone in the greater Ottawa area has a deck or a fence that they need addressed this year, how can they find you online?
Yeah, for sure. If you can find us at neverpeelagain.com. So hopefully that's memorable enough. And the company's Sand and Stain. The reason why it's not sand and stain, it's the ampersand sign, but they don't allow you to put that in the domain. So that's why it's our slogan, but it's also arguably easier to remember because some people call it sand and seal and stuff like that. And because you don't remember. So hopefully neverpeelagain is .com is the memorable way to find us. And then if you want to find me personally, or if you're looking to jump out of your business and think it'd be, suitable for us to add on based on the coatings and restoration front, you can find me on LinkedIn at Markian Pergat. Or just send a message to the company and it'll eventually come to me as well. So again, thanks for having me on.
Neverpeelagain.com.
Yeah.
And if you're in Ottawa and you want to sell Markian your business, he does have money available. So
thanks so much.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Cheers.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.